The investigation is back as I continue my deep dive into the world of Vindication. Join me and Jarod O'Flahtery as we discuss the show's recent fourth season, what's next for Vindication, and much more as the journey to episode 100 continues. Thank you, Jarod, for coming back to the Producer Podcast.
Yeah, is this the third time, Micah? I think three.
Fourth time.
Fourth time.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've done one for each season. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's great. So I guess people still tune in for it. So thanks for having me back.
yeah. So I have to ask, like 4 seasons of Vindication, did you ever think this project was going to go to this scale?
Oh, not really, not really. No, I mean for me, it's always been it's for season one. It was just like, are we going to do another episode? And then we got a second season, and it's like every season we're kind of like try to wrap it up like it's the end. So to have 4 seasons, 36 episodes, definitely wasn't in my cards or in my uh, you know, plan, my idea at the very beginning for it to go this far. And we had a t-shirt we made that said Vindication, had a giant V behind it, and people are like, "Oh, the V looks like a season 5, like a Roman numeral." And this was back when we were doing season 2, and we're like, "Oh, wouldn't that be something to get to 5 seasons? Wow!" And here we are, very close to it. Whether it does or doesn't happen, we're close to it.
Nice. So, with season 4, in some ways, like as I was watching through it, it kind of felt like a soft reboot almost of the show. A lot of characters we had been following kind of had their storylines wrapped up and new characters were coming in. I'd love to hear how you kind of went about crafting this season so that it still felt like Vindication, even though you were making a bunch of changes.
Right. Well, obviously, Todd Terry, Detective Travis, Gary Travis, he's been our centerpiece from the beginning, and so I know you got to stick with him going forward. But what I wanted to do going into season 4 is not have it become repetitive, not to
Mhm.
rehash some of the same storylines, not have some of our side characters go through even more trauma. You had one that uh, had almost been killed and then disappears and then loses a family member and all this stuff, and you're like, how much more can I put this character through? So I knew we needed to make some changes, and so that's really kind of the catalyst, was some of our characters had been through a lot and I didn't just want to keep putting them through it. But you want to also keep it fresh. You want to keep it where the audience, I've always said with Vindication, when you sit down, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're about to watch, as opposed to, yeah, I know it's going to be a crime of the week and they're going to catch the bad guy by the end. And that certainly is why season 4 went the direction that it did. With the storytelling, I don't watch much TV. One of the shows I did watch was called Friday Night Lights. It
Okay.
came out from like 2006 to 2010, and they did 5 seasons. And after 3 seasons, they kind of did a reboot where their main character, their coach, went from one team to another, and you got a whole new cast of characters, and things went a new direction. But it reinvented itself in a way that you fell in love with those just as much as the originals. So that was
Hmm.
kind of my goal. Is like, as we introduce some new characters in a new environment, I want people to enjoy it and love it just as much as the first 3 seasons.
For sure. And were there any characters from the first 3 seasons of Vindication that you're like, oh, I would still love to find a way, even if it's for like, one episode to weave them back into a story?
Yeah, well, in our first episode, our first 2 episodes, we did have a few, cameos or send-offs to some of our characters from the first 3 seasons. You saw Chris Tanner, you saw Janet, you saw some of the guys that were in the Bible study group with Travis. You saw all of them at different points just to kind of know where they are at in their journeys, and it gave them a bit of a send off. So I was able to put some back in there. There were a few that just did not fit. There was no
Mhm.
spot for them. Um, there are also some kind of one-off comical or comedic characters that show up that I'm always like, oh, I'd love to have them pop back in. And we had new ones introduced in season 4 that people are like, oh, you got to bring this person back, you got to bring that one back. I will say, I don't know when this comes out or if it's a spoiler or not, but the next chapter of Vindication that we've already filmed is kind of a special episode. You might even call it a mini feature. It has a character that was introduced in season 4 that I personally just loved writing for the character, loved watching the character, and so that one, who is only in one episode, one scene of season 4, does appear again in this new upcoming special and maybe a little bit bigger capacity. So I was happy to be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be fun to see what you do with that. One of the other noticeable, I guess you could say, differences in season 4 was Travis moved to the big city to start his new detective business. I enjoyed that and like the fresh feel of not being in a small town, but like from the producing standpoint, did that bring additional challenges now having to produce something that felt like it was taking place in this big city?
Honestly, that wasn't hard because we live, in the Dallas Fort Worth areas where we shoot a lot. So we've got big city stuff around. And because our story has taken place in the fictional small town of East Bank, there are a lot of things we haven't been able to use. There have been resources and things and skylines and city parks and all those that we've never been able to use because we're in a small town. So this was an opportunity to say, hey, let's use some of that nicer stuff. Let's use some of those bigger things that are available. And so even early on in season 4, in the first episode, you see kind of one of our FBI agents walking around in this downtown city park that we got access to. So it was instead of it being more difficult, it actually opened us up to some things that for 3 seasons we weren't able to use.
And with you doing season 4, I think one of the big things that jumped out at me, I don't know if this is the right word to use it, but like it felt like there were a few more like mature or more graphic moments maybe than there had been in some of the previous seasons. There's the big gunfight where we're actually this time, seeing characters go down as opposed to in the past. A lot of times that kind of happened more off screen. So how did you decide there, like what might push it too much in showing or referencing things to where it starts not feeling kind of like what Vindication was known for, and what was that okay balance?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll kind of unpack that a little bit. So, what you're referring to at the end of episode 6, we have a pretty heavy gun battle that has casualties, and a lot takes place in that scene. And the reason I did that is, looking at the first 3 seasons, this typically became obvious to me when I'm cutting a trailer, but I was going, we've got this crime drama series, it's about police work and detectives and all these sort of things, and there's definitely guns present and all that, but we never really have any action. It's a lot of people sitting at desks talking to each other or sitting in cars talking to each other or at a table having a conversation. It's like that's hard to cut an action trailer when all you have is people having these conversations in different locations. There's not a whole lot of movement to it. And so I went into the season and said, hey, I want to try to add something, but with our limited production resources, time, money, those sort of things, I didn't know how big I would be able to make it. So in that episode, there's not a lot of build up, a lot of like, hey, let's lead towards this big epic gun battle. Instead, it's kind of this thing that you hear a little bit about at different conversations. And then we get to it. And my reason for that, it's like, I don't want to make it this huge thing. And then we go out and film it, and it looks like, kids running around with squirt guns. Like, I don't want it to be underwhelming because I didn't really know
Mm-hmm.
what we could do. And so we go out, we shoot it all, we get it in the hands of a very gifted VFX artist, and this thing turns out epic. I mean, there's like, I say epic, for us it is. It's pretty good. I think you would be hard pressed to go find Christian entertainment that has any type of a gun battle as intense as this one. There may be a few sprinkled out there. I personally
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen them. So it turns out really big, and I'm like, well, do I want to try to make it smaller or leave it as it is? So, I put it out there to our distribution partners and expecting them maybe to come back and say, all right, we need to take out this headshot. We need to take out this point blank shooting and they didn't ask for anything to change. So I'm like, well, then let's leave it. And so that's kind of how we ended up where we were at on it. Um, Vindication's always meant to be a show for teenagers and up, mature teenagers and up. And so, seeing some real world tragedies take place, I don't think there's anything that makes your stomach turn that we put
Hmm.
into it, but you still know what's happening without, just hearing pops in the distance of gunfire. You are there in the action.
Yeah. And I'd be curious, like, since that episode is out to the public now, like, how have fans responded to that?
The comments that I've heard from people are always like, "Oh my goodness, how did y'all do this? Like this looks like big time Hollywood production, not, on the level of maybe what some season one stuff had been." So mine has the responses I've heard have always been very impressed with the scene and how it turned out, whether that's cast members, crew members, or audiences.
I'd love to hear what was maybe your favorite season 4 episode to make and why, and then like how your favorite compares to kind of what the audience feedback is. It's like, do they kind of match up? Are they different? And, if so, why is the audience maybe gravitating towards a different episode?
Sure. The one that jumps out to me is episode 5, and that's an episode that has three concurrent storylines taking place that we kind of bounce between. One of them is Gary Travis has planned a getaway to a lake with the man that he believes to be his biological father. And then also with the guy who's engaged to his daughter, and then his kind of semi-adopted son, Anthony. So these four men go out on a camping trip, and they learn about each other. Some suspicions arise, others they grow closer to each other. There's just this neat dynamic, and you get to know these characters in a very peaceful setting of being out on a lake, fishing together. And then so you have that storyline. Then you have the FBI who's doing an investigation where the audience knows if these people keep following it, what they're going to land on at the end. Like the audience knows if they keep digging into this, they're going to find one of our important characters. And so you have
Hmm.
this FBI investigation that's going on. And then the third one is one of our new characters, Jasmine. She is a single mother that's working with Travis, and she's reconnecting with her child's father and kind of deciding whether or not she wants him in their lives or out of their lives. And so, anyway, it's fun to watch. You've got these three storylines. They were fun to shoot, to go out to a lake and camp out for 2 days with our cast and crew. It was just a really fun one. I enjoy it, and there's some fun moments in there as well, whether it's comedy or suspense. There's just a lot happening in that episode. So that's my favorite one. I like them all, but that's my favorite. And then the audiences, it seems like the finale, episode 8. Now, just from where we're doing this interview, just came out a couple days ago. But I'm getting the most feedback, the most responses, people, whether it's tears or just edge of their seat, but seeing all the storylines from the season get wrapped up the
Hmm.
way they did, and getting some answers that you have waited 7, 8 episodes to get, and seeing how things from the very first episode are connecting with the finale. It seems like that's the one the audiences have really enjoyed. So I think the cliffhanger nature, the take you to the edge and then roll credits of Vindication of our episodes maybe lends itself to that everyone's happy to finally get those satisfying answers, even if it's not what they expected or hoped for to get those answers in the finale. It seems like it's the episode people enjoy the most.
Okay. Yeah, and season 4, I will say, had not only some good cliffhangers for episodes, but I know there were a number of episodes that I was watching and I thought I was at the cliffhanger, and then it was like it kept going on for like another 5 minutes with a new scene. So that was always fun, not knowing when an episode was actually going to end.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to touch on how you're talking there about the FBI investigation, because I that was a unique aspect in the sense that the audience knew more than the characters in the world. And I know a lot of people who would be like, don't do that because your audience is going to get bored with it. So how did you go about kind of navigating that storyline to keep it interesting when the audience knows what's gonna be
I
the
think the
result?
suspense element is since the audience knows the conclusion, it's wondering, but are they going to get to that? you know, and if when they arrive there, are they going to actually believe it? Are they going to actually believe that a friend of theirs and an acquaintance is the person behind these deaths that they're investigating, you know? So the audience may know that's what they can get to, but are they going to believe it? Are they going to get there? Are they going to miss that? And how is it going to connect? So I think that's what allowed audiences, even though they perhaps know what the conclusion is, keeps them wondering, are they going to get there, and what is their reaction going to be? It's like when you're hosting a surprise party for someone and you're inside the house and you see everyone and the decorations, you know what's going to happen, right?
Mhm.
But there's still that excitement of what's the person's reaction going to be, and you know, is everything going to go as planned? Are they going to come in the front door? We're all going to yell surprise, or is something going to mess up and they come in the back door, or they're 45 minutes late, you know? So I think it's kind of the same scenario where you know what's going to happen, you know what's going on, but there's still that excitement of when it actually does happen.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Uh, and yeah, I can relate to a few surprise parties I've been involved with, and
Were you the planner or were you the recipient?
oh, I was kind of in the middle. Usually I'm like just one of the people invited to help make it a surprise, and
Okay,
hoping you don't mess anything up.
right. You don't spill it ahead of time.
You know, are there any like fun behind the scenes stories or moments you'd be open to sharing on making season four? Not even necessarily, oh, this was like a problem we had to solve, but oh, this was a fun moment.
There was a time we were filming at the Travis, the main household of our main characters. And there was a neighbor there who, for whatever reason, maybe personal issues, they just were never happy about us being there filming, right? They'd come outside. We got to the point that we would, even though we were in a quiet neighborhood, we'd hire an off-duty officer to be parked outside just to make sure that we were not making noise, causing any problems, whatever. Well, then they're upset that the police officer's there, you know, so I can't win. So, you know, it's just, and again, and our crew was wonderful. Everybody was just being very polite to the neighborhood. So there was really no issue. This person just wanted to make it an issue. Well, we got to a point, it was like the last scene of the night. We needed the sun to go down. It was going to be dark, and we had a scene we had to film of a character sitting in their car out in the street, you know? And so here we've got this crew of 25 people, and me with my producer's hat on is going, I really do not want to have to deal with this neighbor tonight, you know? To them to look outside and there's 25 people outside in the street outside there. I'm like, this is just not going to go good. So I gathered everyone up. I said, when we go outside, no, we don't make a sound more than a whisper, you know? And that is just, and usually I say that, and you go outside and it's whispers for about 5 minutes. And
Mhm.
then by 10 minutes, it's like a party, you know, it's just loud and all that. But no, this time they actually listened to Jared, and we go out there, and it was creepy to see that many people, and there was no sound at all. I mean, it was silent, and it was awkward because typically when you see lots of people, there's noise that comes along with it. And no,
Mhm.
everybody, they were tiptoeing. I mean, it was so quiet. And for those who have seen the season, the scene was it's Roger, the older gentleman, when he drives out to the Travis's house, like he wants to talk to them, but he just sits out in
Mhm.
his car and he doesn't go inside. You see him kind of look up to the house. There's a for sale sign in the yard, but he doesn't do anything. It's a very short segment, but that was the scene that we were filming of him in the car and had all these people out there, and it was so quiet. I want to say I got some videos on my phone because it was the most just crazy thing to see this big crowd of people and no noise at all.
Mhm. The one time the sound guy stayed completely happy on set.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, can we just do this for the whole shoot? You know, like let's just adopt this as our new policy for every scene everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to touch on with you is like I'd say probably one of the biggest changes in the industry since you did between season three and season four was the whole introduction of AI into the filmmaking world. So like, did you guys end up using AI at all for stuff on season four?
Yes, I did use some AI, maybe not visually or not in the way you would think, but there are a couple scenes in Travis's investigative office where his his assistant is browsing gossip websites instead of
Hmm.
doing any work, right? And she's kind of hiding that from him. So what I would use is I would use AI to build me a fake website and a fake article to go on that. So if you actually pause and zoom in and read what is on her screen, it's actually talking about what that actually is instead of just filler garbage or garbled, text. It actually created these real articles for that. And so we did use AI to fill in that text, and that happens in a couple different scenes in different places. So I didn't do anything visual. I didn't have any, characters or background or anything that was AI
Hmm.
generated, but we did use some text.
Yeah, that's a smart use for it.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then just while we're on the AI topic, I just love to hear if you have any thoughts, filmmaking in general, on on AI and either things you're excited about with it or concerns you have, because everybody's interested in that and trying to figure it out.
My thoughts, two thoughts on AI. One, throughout history, technology has made other industries go away, right? Look at the newspaper industry and what it used to be, or long distance telephone cards, right? Like that was a thing in the 90s. You could go to the store where they had gift cards, you would buy long distance cards, So, and there's a list that goes on and on of all these things that have been outdated over time by technology and they go away. And I think AI definitely has some strong potential to do that. Now, there have been other technologies that advance, and then they kind of hit a plateau, where they get to a certain spot and they don't proceed any further. I remember in the 90s that, there was the joke is if you buy a computer on Sunday, by Saturday, it's going to be outdated, right? Like it's a paperweight at that point. And that happened, where a year-old computer is like can barely run. It's so slow and all that. But we've kind of hit a plateau now where I've got computers that are more than a decade old and they're still doing everything that I need them to do, right? So
Hmm.
there's certainly the potential with AI that it advances to a certain point, but then plateaus where things aren't getting any better. Now, that's one thought. My second thought on it is if it continues to progress, if this type of technology is one that can grow and over time just gets better and better, smarter and smarter, I could see in the film world that we could sit down and with our cell phones, scan our face, read off a couple of lines or count to 10 with our own voice, and then give a prompt and say, I want to watch a 2 hour movie of myself fighting an intergalactic battle where I find love and where I blah, blah, and all these things happen. And then it renders for a little while, and you sit down and watch a full length film with yourself as the star, and there's these plot points and everything else that happens, and you're just custom ordering what you want to watch without it having to be made with all the stuff that's
Hmm.
out there. I'll also say, okay, I said two thoughts. This will be my third. I also think that the film industry has priced itself where it's so expensive to make stuff now because of the unions and just because of expectations of what it cost to make a film in the 70s and 80s and 90s with film and lights and electricity and all those things. All those things have gotten cheaper now. You don't need film that you have to develop and process. You don't have to travel to places when you can there's so many things that you can do now that you didn't in the past, but yet nobody wants to lower their budgets.
Hmm.
And the unions don't want to give up anything, so everything just gets more expensive. And so AI has the potential to sweep in and say, here's something that's much more cost effective than this bloated industry.
Yeah. No, I like that. I haven't heard that third thought on just the whole that being, reasoning behind the whole cost aspect of it. So that's a good one. Since you touched on it earlier, and we won't go too in depth, but I know you mentioned how like the next thing in the Vindication world isn't season five, it's a special. And I'd just be kind of curious to hear like how those discussions went and like what kind of led you guys to decide that maybe doing something other than another full season of the show is like where you wanted to go next.
Yeah, it wasn't so much my decision or something that I came up with. Where we were at was season 4 was completed, and we are waiting for all the distribution stuff to fall into place for it to be released. And there was going to be a time span of, potentially 4 to 6 to 8 months in there that Vindication would have to go stagnant and go on standby. And until season four comes out, you don't know how well it's going to be received. Is there a demand for a fifth season? Our audience is still on board, engaged, and wanting more. And it's a big financial commitment to do a whole new season. So the idea was presented of, well, in this gap that we have of 6 to 8 months, what if we do something smaller, something that's the equivalent of like 2 episodes and keep kind of the same budget, keep the same model that we have used to create the episodes. So it's not like a movie. It's still episodic, but combine 2 episodes, have a storyline that one of the parameters was people who have never watched any Vindication could sit down and enjoy this. It's not all built on backstories and past and those sort of things, that people could sit down and enjoy it as their introduction to Vindication. And if they enjoy it or they like it, then they can go back and rewatch
Hmm.
4 seasons that come before it. But at the same time, it also needs to be something that people who have watched all 4 seasons are going to pick up right where they left off and enjoy it and not feel like they're rehashing all the things they already know. So, two objectives going in two opposite directions, and I've got to write and create that. So, we came up with something. It's a contained story. There's not really a cliffhanger or anything you need to know from the past, but it does chronologically take place after the events of season four. So it's the next chapter of seeing what happens. I do like the fact that it is kind of in that movie format. So maybe some of
Hmm.
the like festivals that we've kind of gotten out of those, for a
Yeah.
while, because there's just not a good way to put episodic stuff in a festival. It's, hey, watch our episode 7. It's really good. Well, if you haven't watched the first 6 and the 3 seasons before it, it's not going to be that good. So this at least gives us an opportunity now to put something in front of people who don't want to go spend 18 hours watching 4 seasons. They just want to get a taste of it in this condensed format. And with all the things that we've learned along the way, it I think it's some of our best work as far as acting and storytelling, cinematography, all those things. So we're not creating a project that lines up with maybe our early stuff in season one. This is something that lines up with the best work that we're doing in season four.
Nice. Yeah, I know that's a cool idea of doing something like that and making it in a way that it would hopefully attract new fans to join the fan base.
Yeah. My phrase when when we're on set shooting it and we're seeing all these pieces come together, I'm like, I don't know if we're making a masterpiece or a disaster piece until it's all done. And I don't know yet, it may not
Hmm.
like, yeah, this is better as a series. I do feel like people who have watched full seasons are going to say like they're like, yeah, I like that, but I like the seasons better just because
Hmm.
you get so many more in-depth stories and big moments and highs and lows, whereas in a condensed, 75-minute type thing, you're not going to get as much of that.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. One other question I wanted to touch on with season four is just the distribution side, because some of the distribution changed who you were going with and stuff here with season four. And I'd be interested to hear like if there were new things that you learned either because your new distributor required different things or had a different way of going about releasing the project.
Interesting. Well, I guess I'll use the terms old, not distributor. The distributors say the same. We'll say old streaming partner and new streaming partner. And if people want to
Okay.
dig up and know who those are, then that way I can speak about them freely. After we had done season 3, we went to our old streaming partner and said, "Hey, is there any interest in doing a season 4?" And they promptly said, "We're not interested in doing that." And so our other teammates and partners had to make a decision. Do we go forward with it, even though we've lost that streaming partner? Do we go forward in faith and hope that someone else comes up, or do we shut it down? And the decision made was to continue to keep going with it. And so, in that process, once it was done, our new streaming partner became very interested in it, particularly season 4, because it was new, it was fresh, it had never been seen before, and it already had an established audience of where Vindication had been for the first 3 seasons. So what they had to do was they have a special model of getting things approved for their streaming service. And so Vindication had to go through that approval process. What was unique about it, though, is there were no edits requested whatsoever. Once it was approved, I didn't have to, like you talked about, the shootout scene or maybe some other things that are a little more mature in nature. There were no requests made for any of that to be changed. We got to keep it exactly as the director intended on that, which was very nice. With the previous streaming partner, there was a process of, well, we have to cut this out, we have to take that out, this scene's too, those sort of things. Even though it seems like audiences were, we were never pushing the envelope into rated R territory,
Right.
barely PG-13. I mean, some of the things that were tweaked were PG, the Pixar films could have this, and we were having to change it. So that was nice to know that the final product, as you intended, is the one that gets out there. Now there may have been, it may have been season three. I don't think anything changed in season four. Our distributor did, they have their services as well, and they had a couple of tweaks occasionally of a line or something that they wanted changed, but that may have just been season three. I don't recall any for season four.
And then during the marketing then for the season 4 release, was there any new ideas or things you were trying this time around with social media or anything that seemed to either work or maybe completely flop and you're like, yeah, if you're considering that idea, do not try it.
Well, to be very blunt, our new streaming partner ran paid ads, whereas in the past that had never happened. And I feel like in
Okay.
social media nowadays, they're in the business of making money, and you can
Mhm.
try all the tricks and the this and that and hope that something goes viral or something catches the algorithm. But they're going to give preferential treatment to those paid ads. You want to get it in front of a lot of people, that's the way to do it. And so our new partner did run some paid ads, and so that has been nice to see that where we've got, some trailers and stuff that have hit quarter of a million, half a million views, whereas in the past, we might get, 5 to 10,000.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I've noticed even doing this podcast, like it seems like in the past year or so, the some of the interaction and engagement just naturally has not been what it was. Uh, but I also don't do paid ads.
Yeah, those companies that run this stuff are pretty smart, and they're there to make money. And so it's almost like they'll allow things to occasionally go viral. It's kind of like the casino. You'll see
Hmm.
some people win. They let a couple people win every once in a while, so that gets everyone else in there excited about it. And uh, and then nothing happens from it. They just lose a lot of money. So it's kind of the same thing. You'll see stuff on social media go viral and go, "Ooh, I'm gonna keep creating content," and then when it doesn't happen, then you're like, oh, I'm going to pay for some ads and they make money. So
Yep.
anyway, it's oversimplification, but yeah, it's nice to have that happening with our current streaming partner.
Awesome. We'll start wrapping it up. I have a few kind of closing questions for you. The first one is the question of the season. And so nothing to do with season 4 of Vindication, but I'd be curious to hear because film is a stressful business. What are ways that you found work to help you either de-stress or avoid the stress, especially during those busy production times?
I want to know the answer to that because I haven't found the ways. Yeah, no, I haven't figured that one out yet. I wear lots of hats during production, and even if you take a couple off, the other ones still weigh a lot. So I unfortunately do not have any answers of how to do that. If there would be anything, it's that I don't cling to the project too tightly.
Hmm.
If Vindication's over with after season four, so be it. I'll let it go, let it sell off, right? I think there's some people that are so passionate and so desperate. And you know what? Probably the motivational books and speakers would tell you that's what you have to have is that motivation and passion to be successful. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, you know what? If I got to let this thing go, I don't want it to become an idol anyway. So if the time comes to let it go, let it go. So that one for me maybe helps with the stress a little bit, that I'm
Hmm.
just not clinging to it with white knuckles that, I've got to see this do another season or I've got to see it do this and that.
Yeah. No, I like that because I mean, even me, it's like, yeah, we're developing ideas now and stuff. Like you want to see it happen, but you also don't want to like be so focused on it you miss other opportunities or waste time and money with an idea that's not that great, actually. So then the other kind of wrap up question I wanted to touch on with you it gets into the whole family life and work balance realm of things because I know in the last few years your family has grown and there's times I've seen you, posting pictures of you're a little editing sweet buddy
Yeah.
and stuff. So like what are things you do to kind of keep that balance as you're working on projects like Vindication?
With Vindication, we've never been in the production model of for 6 weeks we go shoot everything. We usually shoot in about an 8 to 10 day block, and then we have a couple months off, and then we'll shoot again for 8 to 10 days and a couple months off. And so those breaks in there make it nice that yes, there is a very intense period of time, but then you get not let go, but you have some time to recoup and reconnect with the family and those sort of things. So also we always shoot local, so at the end of the day, I'm coming home and I see my family either in the mornings or at night. Now, my wife would tell you that mentally I'm completely checked out. Like she can talk to me, but my mind is on set even when I'm at home during those days. But it's still nice to see each other as opposed to if I were to go away for 6 to 8 weeks to shoot Vindication somewhere else and then the family's not, and then I come back home and it's post-production and it's just a goal. So ours is kind of more spread out and that allows it, I think, to be okay where you don't have those big valleys of no family.
On that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of the show. So thank you once again, Jared, for taking the time to talk to us again today.
Are we going to do a fifth one? Will we do a fifth one for the special? I don't know if there'll be the demand. Or maybe your rule is like, Jared, you got to do a season if you're going to get on the podcast again. So
Well,
if there's a season five, then
yeah, we'll figure it out when we get to that point. And with that, we're going to close the case on this episode of the Producer Podcast. Come back next Friday for an all new episode of the show as season 10 continues. Until then, make sure to check out our new Facebook page, like and follow the Producer Podcast, and share it with all your friends. Until next time, thanks for listening.